Good morning on a rain-drenched Detroit day. My name is Saeed Khan, and this is the week that was. Before I introduce our fantastic panel, a word from our sponsor.
I'm Wayne County Treasurer Eric Sabri. There are payment plans available to help save your property. Visit our website at treasurer.waynecounty.com or email us at taxinfo@waynecounty.com for further information. We're here to help.
And we're here to help you piece through the news from this week. We are joined with attorney Bill Seikaly. We have former WXYZ reporter Jim Kiertzner. We have host of the new podcast, Detroit in Black and White, Adolph Mongo, veteran investigative journalist Nancy Derringer, and of course, co-founder of Deadline Detroit, Allan Lengel. So I know, because I've been getting emails about this, that everyone wants to talk about the biggest news in judicial history, Gwyneth Paltrow being found not liable in her ski accident suit.
Wait a minute. I think I'm on the wrong connection. Let me check something here. Stand by.
What should I wear? What should I wear in court?
I have to say, there's been a lot of very amusing commentary about this case. But I think that what the big reveal for me was when you put her in courtroom lighting and she doesn't have her glam team standing there, she's really just kind of average pretty, you know? She's kind of thin-lipped and, you know, she has nice bone structure, but, you know, this like... this goddess of wellness with a jade egg stuck up her hoo-ha is a little bit of an oversell. So there.
I think the plaintiff should have brought in a cuboidal box and just left it on the table. Did you just kept saying 7, 7, 7.
Did you hear what she said at the? Apparently, she got up after the verdict was read and walked over and whispered something to the.
Yeah, she said, "I wish you well," and he said, "Thank you."
Something like that, but I think the Twitterverse came up with some better ones, which is my favorite.
The I like wine was one of my favorites.
I'll use your bones to make my broth.
Ooh. Brutal. Well,
I hate to suggest that we've already spent way too much time on that subject.
Yeah,
because we do have some entertaining. We have some entertaining videos. We don't have to play them all, but let's try a couple.
Let's try one. Yes.
The next. Let's do.
Which won't be about Gwyneth. Yes.
Right.
Okay.
I haven't heard Joe say thank you, President Trump, for the great job you did. Perhaps I'm just not listening. Now NATO's stuffed up with cash. Thank you very much, President Trump.
Shut the up!
Thank you very much.
Yes, folks. The news came down yesterday after we had pieced through quite a list of topics to talk about this week. But I think we do really need to talk about the headliner, which is former President Donald J. Trump being indicted in the Manhattan District Court on hush money charges, but I'm sure it's more than that. Yes, Michael Lucido, you're absolutely right. In his social media post, he did say that he's been indicated, which actually is not so strange, because if you think about mafioso, they finger one another. So if you're indicating somebody, that's fingering them. So there you go. So let's go to the resident attorney on the panel today, Bill Seikaly. What do you think about this?
Well, I'm going to sound a little like Steve Fishman, who always wants to wait.
Yes.
First of all, it was a great day in American history as far as I was concerned, that he was actually indicted. But first of all, we don't know really exactly what he was indicted for. I understand there may be as many as 31 counts, but we need to see the indictment to really appreciate what's happening. I think it's going to be a very, very interesting trial, and I think it will go to trial. As long as Trump continues to plan on running, I think that his view will be we have nothing to lose. And at least one other presidential candidate ran for president while in prison. kind of the other side of the political spectrum, but Eugene Debs, the last time he ran for president, was in prison during the election.
I think, this is totally speculative, when you're talking about 31 counts, besides the financial aspect, I'm going to bet there's witness intimidation, obstruction of justice. He must have been on the phone with people saying, you better not, I'm sure they went before the grand jury and said, hey, he threatened me, or he told me I better not, or my life's over, or whatever. It's a pretty good, solid charge. And I think that's, it's like Bill Clinton with his whole Monica Lewinsky thing. I mean, there were obstruction issues in there, which heightened the severity of it. People always just say it was about a blowjob, but it was a little bit more than that. So,
well, we got a little peek into it. I don't know if you saw this morning, George Stephanopoulos was on GMA being interviewed by, Michael Cohen was on with George Stephanopoulos. And he said, what is this about, more than just 130,000 to Stormy Daniels? And Cohen said, yes, but I really can't get into it. But he said there are corroborating witnesses and documentation, and it goes beyond just that payoff and hush money. And, as you're running the Jimmy Kimmel comedy clips, I heard when this first surfaced, the old joke was Donald Trump was the first man to pay a porn star to keep her mouth shut.
I have one more video I got to play.
Trump actually put out a video about it. Watch this.
I'm so indicted, and I just can't hide it. I'm about to go to jail, and I don't like it. I'm so indicted, and I just can't hide it. I know. I am so screwed.
I hope that takes over for that song that he did with the January 6th inmates, because it certainly is a bit more catchy. Well, you saw quite a few images in that montage, including Mike Pence. There are others that he's beseeching on Capitol Hill, including his usual stable full of cohorts like Lindsey Graham. They're all coming out in support of him.
Because they want his base. They want his base. They secretly, they having a great time because they want him out of there. But the guy said when he was running for office, I can kill somebody in the middle of the street and I still get elected. He got some zealots. He got some Jim Jones zealots that would do anything for them. You can go to Florida, go to Palm Beach County where he lives. Man, these people are out of their minds driving these.
Go up to northern Michigan.
Yeah. So, yes, they want his base. And I'm just waiting to see what they're going to do to his ass in Atlanta. I want a 1-2 punch. Knock him out in Atlanta, and then the special counsel put the icing on the cake. You got to kill him. Otherwise, New York, he might squeeze out of that.
A wooden stake through the heart, essentially. Yes. Yeah. I think I agree with Adolph and our frequent colleague, Steve Fishman, who's been saying this on this show for months. He says, Georgia is the slam dunk case. And do Georgia, and he won't get out of that because there's no way he can get out of that. It's his like Steve has said, again, many times, let's play the tape. Is that your voice? Yes. Case closed. And so I'm looking forward to that. I also want to give at least one shout out to Stephanie Clifford, aka Stormy Daniels, who somebody tweeted at her something like, "You skank, he wouldn't touch you with a 10-foot pole." And she tweeted back almost immediately, "That's right, he touched me with a 3-inch one."
I saw Lindsey Graham, he was on Fox, ranting about what an injustice is and the weaponization.
He was almost in tears.
He's saying, oh, this guy spent more money on legal fees than most people spend on their campaigns. help him out. Here, send your money to blah, blah, blah. I mean, Lindsey Graham. And then they juxtaposes with him saying early on, right after January 6th, saying, oh my gosh, I'm done. Count me out. I'm through with this. And here it is. I mean, it's so maddening to watch these people. They're so spineless.
Really bring back Jimmy Swagger and all them. He need to just go get that group who say, I have sinned. Give me some money. Or Roberts, send me some money or they're going to lock me up. You know what? Listen, Trump, I think he's going to enjoy this because he figures if he beats the case in court, he can become president again.
Oh, I think so. And he'll argue that he should get 2 terms now after a second one. If he's reelected again, and God help us if he is, he's going to say, well, now I get to do 2 terms. Go ahead, Bill.
We have a couple things going here. I'm just curious about people's thoughts. I agree with Adolph about why these people who just can't seem to be offended by gun violence in schools, or the fact that we have 1.2 guns for every person in our country, it can't be outraged by so many things that are going on, are outraged by the prosecution of a common criminal. But I think the 2 interesting questions here are, one, how many people are in this base that Adolph's talking about? Because I think that really says something about our country. And I think it's likely to be about 33% of our country, which is terrifying to me.
It's interesting.
But let me just get this out. I'm interested in people's opinion about this. But I think that the second issue is this really going to help or hurt his efforts to get the nomination? The Republicans. Is he better off today than he was earlier in the week before he got indicted in terms of getting the nomination?
Well, I don't think it. Yeah.
Go ahead, Alan.
No, as I said, I don't know how much it's going to help him. It keeps him in the limelight. It's Trump, Trump, Trump. I mean, he's the biggest news. He's a great generator of viewership, readership. His name will be out there, but I would think I think with Hillary Clinton when she ran in 2016, I think there was a little bit of fatigue, like Clinton fatigue, of people remembering Bill Clinton when he was in office, and just the total shitstorm that hit with Monica Lewinsky and stuff. And I think people were exhausted with that. And I think people are exhausted. Even some of the Trump fans are like, enough. And, it's interesting. I'm on a text group with a bunch of friends, and one of them said, oh my God, this is going to be bad. The base is going to go crazy. And I'm like, who cares about offending the base? The base still thinks the election was stolen. The base does not care about justice. We can't. And there may be some violence with lone wolves, but there's not going to be mass violence because the people who were arrested at the Capitol are going to prison. A lot of them. I'm seeing press releases from the Justice Department, like some days 4 or 5 people getting sentenced. And those people are not true believers. They were at the moment. And suddenly they're like, oh, shit, there's a consequence. They're not people who are like, I don't care. I'm glad I did it. I'm willing to do the 3-4 years in prison for Donald Trump. They're regretting that. And I think we're not going to see the mass demonstrations out there because a lot of people just don't give a shit about him anymore.
Jim,
but a lot do. But
yeah, Jim, how do you see the media coverage on this one? I mean, I remember when he announced that I'm going to get indicted, I think a week ago Tuesday. A lot of the cable networks, it looks like they wanted it to be a pay-per-view because of all of the hoopla around it. Do you think it's been responsible coverage? Do you think that this is something to be expected? Is there a thumb on the scale? I mean, I know that there's thumbs on the scale in one direction on some networks, but what about overall?
Yeah, I was texting this morning with a friend of mine who works in New York City, local TV news, who has a background here in Detroit, and they're expecting a crap storm. I'm not sure I'm going to use the S word that still might come back and haunt me. Somebody could use this clip. I'll leave the 4-letter words to you guys. But no, I think all the coverage is going to be
crap is a 4-letter word, Jim.
Yeah, I understand, but it's TV friendly.
Okay.
Anyway, what's happening with the crap storm? What are they
Well,
expecting?
they're concerned about, like you said, any kind of a turnout, the lone wolves. New York City police were all told this morning, all hands on deck. Everybody show up for work, whether you were scheduled or not, in uniform at 7 a.m. They're going to do that again on Tuesday. So there's just, I guess, so much uncertainty. That's the news story. How is this arraignment on Tuesday going to play out? Is there going to be a perp walk? Is he going to be visible to the public? Or will the Secret Service say he's got to come in so he's not visible to the public, because there might be some crazy on the other side who, God forbid, might want to take a shot at him and do a Lee Harvey Oswald, who's had it up to here with all of his stuff.
I think in the end, look, in the Detroit Federal Courthouse, there's a garage.
Yeah, there's
people slide down. Yep. They come in and out that way. I mean, unless Trump demands it that he do the perp walk, I think they'll slide him in some back way, and he'll slide out the same way, unless he's really adamant about it. And the Secret Service is probably going to be discouraging, because it's a crazy environment out there.
Yep.
Can you actually request a perp walk, like saying, I want a kosher meal and a perp walk on the arraignment?
I've tried that. Tried that.
I don't think there's any question about it that Trump wants the perp walk. I think he's going to do everything he can to get it. I mean, it's his style. I mean, is there any real question about it? He must figure we'll get another couple $1 million in donations after the perp walk.
But
the image of him in handcuffs, though, I mean, do you think that's not a winner? That's to him, and that's the one thing he fears most, is being seen as a loser.
Him in handcuffs would be 50 Shades of Orange, wouldn't it, Nancy?
I think Daniels may have handcuffs. I look at the big deal out of all this is that we have a black prosecutor in New York, one in Atlanta, and I can just imagine how Trump feels. It's like when black soldiers during the Civil War showed up in the South to fight their former masters and said, "Oh shit, he's surrounded. It's his worst nightmare." He come from a family of racists, Nazis, Ku Klux Klan. Now, here we got a black attorney general in New York coming at him. The district attorney in New York City is coming at him, and the sister over in Atlanta. Man, he's surrounded by a sea of black, and his worst nightmare has come true. And you see the name calling and all these comparisons to apes and Al Sharpton, pre-Al, fat Al Sharpton, skinny Al Sharpton, whatever. So it's great that he's indicted, but they're going to have to chop his head off.
I just want to say we because of the makeup of these panels, often we spend a lot of time talking about anti-Semitism on this show. But I mean,
I'm the only Jew today.
Yeah, you okay? Good.
Good. Oh, wait a minute. That sounds anti-Semitic to me.
Generally, I'm glad I'm the one to bring it up. Anyway, this prefix of Soros funded that gets thrown around now about Alvin Bragg is it's so repellent. I mean,
it's nothing new, Nancy. They said that during the civil rights movement. That communists was bankrolling Martin Luther King and Rosa Parks. Anytime somebody rose up against segregation or racism,
right,
there was always some little creep in the background pulling the strings.
Yeah,
you know what? The George Soros thing is international. When Danny Fenster, the journalist, was in the Myanmar prison, he had fellow inmates who were asking him about George Soros, as if they were, all hanging out together because the Jews all know each other.
Well, no wonder
I only get that when I travel asking if I know Eminem because I'm from Detroit.
You know what? When I was in Israel, I was getting a shawarma. I had a baseball Detroit cap on, and the guy says, "Where are you from?" I said, "Detroit." I said, "You know about Detroit?" He's about 21 years old. He goes, "Yeah, Eminem."
There you go.
They say that all over Europe. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
When I
think
think he was
the bigger
offering you
question.
dessert. I think he was offering you dessert there with the shawarma, Alan. So, yeah,
I
Bill.
think the bigger question in this case is we need a TV camera inside this courtroom. We want to see this play out.
Is there no TV?
Well, it's
Are
federal
there no
court.
cameras in New York courtrooms?
It's
No,
federal.
it's state court. Isn't
Oh,
it?
it's state court.
Oh, wait, I'm
It
sorry.
is-
Wait, I'm sorry. You're right. Yep. my
No, allow
mistake.
the cameras in federal court. But this is a state court issue, and in New York, it's up to the individual judge.
Yes, I was going to say that. That's correct. So,
But
whoever
wouldn't
the judge
Trump,
is who draws this case, it's his or her discretion.
well, wouldn't Trump mug for the pardon the pun for the camera?
You know, to some extent, but that's going to be a lot of hours.
Yeah.
It'll be an arraignment. I mean, the first thing will be an arraignment, but everyone will watch that if it's on TV. I mean, who wouldn't want to watch Trump in a courtroom like that?
Yep.
So the judge who's been assigned is Judge Juan Merchan, who has actually presided over other cases involving Trump. So that should make it easy, and I'm sure he's probably going to claim, he and his attorneys will claim bias. But on the political realm on this, where are the other Republican candidates or candidates aspirants? It seems as though either they're laying low, or if you've heard, Governor Ron DeSantis has apparently said that he will not cooperate with any extradition efforts because, after all, Trump is a citizen of Florida, and I don't see this as being a crime.
All right. First of all, can I just say this? I hate that word, a citizen of Florida, okay? We don't have citizenship of particular states in this country. We are citizens of the United States. We are residents of Michigan or Florida, which is something that's always driven me nuts. It's one of my little pet peeves. And if
how about we compromise and say we're domiciliaries?
Domiciliaries, whatever. That's but it's like, but somebody needs to take Ron DeSantis down a peg, and maybe him essentially polishing Trump's knob over this is going to be the thing that does it, because that's not an alpha move in my book. It's like he just gets up there and thunders about whatever the fuck he wants, and nobody ever steps to him, and somebody needs to step to that guy because he's a thug.
It's like a third world country now. It's like he's saying, no, we're not going to extradite him. I don't think there's got to be a workaround around that if the governor.
Weeks ago, I said we need to distinguish between bills that are introduced in Florida and laws that are passed in Florida, because clearly it's crazy time down there and they're introducing all kinds of insane bills, but whether they advance is another thing. However, this guy, and can we just give a shout out to the Disney Corporation? And you don't know how hard it is for me to do this, but for them to have essentially pulled the rug out from under this this move that DeSantis made to strip them of their special governmental status in Orlando is just hilarious. And I have to say,
yeah, they pretty much torched the hotel room on the way out.
Yeah, exactly. Salam to the Disney Corporation.
And by the way, Alan, I have to take the most severe umbrage with your characterization of third world countries. They do not have extradition because they do not have due process. So how dare you impugn
Point well
them with their extradition
taken.
terms? Yes, there you go.
Point well taken.
Speaking of somebody who's from England, yes.
Yeah.
So there you go. But this idea that DeSantis seems to be playing both sides. I mean, on the one hand, I'm sure that this is going to go over very well with his base because it seems as though he's standing by his man, like Lindsey Graham. But on the other hand, he must be pretty sure that Trump is not going to resist arrest and that he's going to be going. So he knows that he's not going to have to even think about the whole issue of extradition. Sure. And even if it does happen, then he knows that the courts are going to handle it, and he's going to say, hey, what can I do?
Mm-hmm. I don't think Trump wants to open the door for DeSantis to get some bonus points off of him. He's He's going to fly up there. I mean, how ridiculous would it be to fight extradition anyways? I mean, it's just.
What, he's going to stay in Florida?
Yeah, right.
So he can't travel. Listen.
I might be able to
over in Florida anyway. So go ahead. What, Bill?
I might be able to the idea that he stay in Florida. He couldn't leave.
Right.
Because ultimately that's what it would be. First of all, the extradition stuff, it's foolish, silly. It wouldn't work. The moment that he got on an airplane to go anywhere, and the crimes involved with that would be interesting. I mean, I think you might be able to go after DeSantis for, harboring a felon. Ultimately, I just don't see any of that playing out. I think he knows he's not going to get in trouble. He can use these words, look big. I think it's just silly. It's absolutely ridiculous to consider what these Republicans are saying about Trump and how outraged they are. It's the most ridiculous concept I've ever heard of. They have absolutely no backbone. They have absolutely no spine. And I can't give it any serious thought.
They want his army. They want his army.
Yeah, that's
they want
right.
his support. That's why they'll say and do anything to get Trump support. But privately, I'm sure they celebrating. Penson probably got drunk off some church wine or something. but the bottom line is they want his base, whether it's 20% of it, 30% of it. Here, there's an opportunity. Let the Democrats and everybody else do that dirty work.
I wonder if Florida is going to be even a haven for, like, if Putin wants to come vacation, if he'll have protections there so no one can arrest him in Florida.
So Julie Johnson has an interesting position. She says he's got so much on each one, that's why they're afraid to oppose him. I think that doesn't even have to. That doesn't even have to be on the classified documents. That phone number was on the White House bathroom wall. Becky Taylor says most people arrested cannot fly anywhere and have to give up their passports. Right? Trump is a flight risk. True, but I mean, with all the Secret Service detail that will be there, I think what would be better is a Brinks truck going up Interstate 95. Let's go slow roll all the way up to New York City. Okay, so here's a serious question. What song do you want playing when he's doing the perp walk?
Ooh, boy, that's a good one.
Surrender by Cheap Trick?
Mr. Big Stuff by Betty Wright.
Take a walk on the wild side.
A walk on the wild side. Lou Reed, fellow New Yorker. Very good. Okay. Bill, you must have something in that music repertoire.
Yeah. The first thing that came to my head was Happy Days Are Here Again. But, wow. This is going to be an interesting couple of weeks.
Well,
I can ask this question, and that is, if Trump, in fact, gets the nomination and all of this goes forward, is this going to be the end of the Republican Party? Because I cannot believe that if he gets indicted and is found guilty and tears the Republican Party apart, still gets the nomination because I think what will that do to the Republican Party during the next elections?
Can I take a stab at that one, please? There are a lot of Republicans, and Bill will tell you I'm tapped into a lot of Republicans, and the establishment or the traditional Republicans in Michigan have taken a seat back, and they're just waiting for this storm, this S storm, to pass. Look at what happened in this state in November. It's a clean sweep by the Democrats. The Trump-endorsed candidates all lost. They're waiting for this storm to pass. This just prolongs the storm.
But Jim, look who they made the head of their party.
Well, but
the biggest shitstormer.
Wait a minute. It's the so-called grassroots Republicans, the Trumpsters, who have sort of, if you will, carjacked the Republican Party. But the traditional Republicans say it's only temporary, that this storm will eventually pass. Might take 1 or 2 election cycles. But they're hoping it passes, or that if Trump somehow and that base survives all of this and lives on, that will become a splinter, possibly a third party, and not part of the traditional or establishment Republican.
But they better be careful, Jim, because the Democrats, they let Feiger, and I was with Feiger. We won the nomination in '98 and got destroyed.
Yeah, he won 2 counties.
It took a long time for the Democrats to take back the House, the Senate in Michigan, the Supreme Court, the Court of Appeals, because the Democrats sat on their ass and said, we hate this guy. The union said, we hate this guy. And so I'd rather vote for England. Yeah, okay, you voted for England, and he wreaked havoc all around this state. And so the Republicans better be, they better have a game plan, because to sit back and let these crazies destroy the party, they might not be able to get it back.
But Adolph, you've seen what's happened at the conventions when they try to challenge him, when they try to stand up to them, it becomes another S show, and they just give up.
Did you see the interview that she gave to MLive, Christina Caramo gave to MLive this week, where she said everyone who voted for Proposal 3 is complicit in murder? It's like, that's, what's the old line? Politics is about addition. It's like not about subtraction. And she's all about subtraction. She's talking about, we got to clear out these people and we got to clear out these people. And it's like, pretty soon you've cleared out everybody but, 3 or 4 nutcases from Macomb County or, up north somewhere. And try to win some elections with that. It just isn't going to happen.
It's a party that has serious mental health issues.
Right.
And those who have more severe cases become the leaders.
Right. And then Karen Dumas apparently also got an interview with her and wrote,
unbelievable. I told you that, Lengel, that Karen Dumas started drinking the Kool-Aid with this woman.
Yeah.
I don't know what the deal was.
Well,
she looked human.
I know she was talking about how well-spoken and gracious she is and everything. And it was kind of like, Karen, turn it down. But I don't know. She works with Charlie LaDuff now. So who knows,
Well, okay, by the way, Becky Taylor chimed in, and she, as far as song recommendations, she said not Stairway to Heaven. But Becky, I would suggest, if you are going Led Zeppelin, then the perfect song might be Tangerine. There you go on that one.
That is an audio pun. Go ahead.
An audio pun. Well, I think we've pretty much taken care of covering most of the bases regarding the Trump issue, and I'm sure that there will be plenty more. But we do have a clip.
We have one more just to show how the reaction has been in some circles.
We've had such a heavy week of news, so I thought, we'd wrap up things this week with some lighthearted news that's really going to put a smile on your face.
We're interrupting this package right now because we have some breaking news, and it is historic news out of Lower Manhattan right now. A federal jury, a grand jury, has voted to indict former President Trump. The first time ever that a former president has been criminally charged.
That is the reaction in some circles.
Do you know what this reminds me of? November 7th, 2020. It was a Saturday. It was a beautiful day in Michigan. It was well into the 70s. The beautiful part of fall was still hanging on. A friend of mine called and said, let's play some miniature golf today. So we went out looking for some miniature golf courses. And the word came in that finally Pennsylvania had finished its recount, and AP and CNN and all the big media were calling it for Biden. And for the rest of the day, the internet was full of scenes like that, of people like literally dancing in the streets and ringing cowbells from their balconies and clapping and all this stuff. And I thought, try to be president in such a way that people don't act like that when you lose. But I guess it's not going to
Well, speaking of dancing in the street, and this is not an endorsement on behalf of The Week That Was or Deadline Detroit, this is just me. Go ahead and support Martha Reeves so that she can get her star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. There you go. Because she needs some money on that. Okay, so speaking close to home in the streets of Detroit, we had a vote in the Detroit City Council regarding District Detroit. Adolph Mongo is already shaking his head either because of my terrible sense of humor with Martha Reeves or because of District Detroit. Go, Adolph.
Detroit. How much motherfucking money we gonna give the Ilitches and all these billionaires, that build parking lots and all this shit, and you got people that don't have water, lights, or whatever. But I wasn't surprised because the city council, Duggan had done a Coleman Young. I remember the late Coleman Young. He knew how to manipulate the council. He had his folks. He could push stuff through. So it wasn't. That was a slam dunk to give them this money. Now, how much money are they going to ask for next year? It's 400 here, 800 here, another billionaire. They just gave him an ATM card and say, just go do what you're going to do. Until we start fixing up these neighborhoods and bringing in retail and grocery stores, just pouring money downtown is not going to do it. It's not going to do it. Detroit school district is all screwed up. Man, this is just a playground for folks to come here and have a good time. You got people moving here, and when they start families, they're gone because they're not paying no roof. So
Who's got a dog, man?
So $800 million, $800 million. What can we do in the city with $800 million?
You know what? I was the understanding that when we gave money for the new arena, we gave like $400 million or something, that part of the incentive was that they were going to develop the area with hotels and restaurants and housing. And I thought that was the payment. And now here it is. The Ilitches went and built parking lots mostly. And now they're coming back with another huge ask. The Ilitches they've had their hand out. They got the Joe, and Adolph probably knows this better. I think they were paying like $1 a year for rent at the Joe Louis, but they had certain things where the city got concessions, got money from the concessions. They also were supposed to get money from TV revenue. They owed $80 million in TV revenue, and the Ilitches screwed the city out of it. They didn't pay it. And so here it is. They constantly have, and people forget there are places around the country, like the Golden State Warriors owner in San Francisco, who paid, I think, $1.5 billion of financing, private financing. There are stadiums and arenas around the country that are being privately financed and are always with their hand out. The Ilitches always have their hand out here, and they try to screw the city as much as they can.
What was so special about them? When you shouldn't be able to own a sports franchise and a casino, but the Ilitches always got around that. And I remember they had a hot dog truck that came from New York, parked outside of the Fox, and somebody from the Ilitches company came to the and said, either you give us a part of what you make or you got to move.
Right.
This is how greedy they are.
And it would not be so harsh on them if they made a better pizza.
First of all, I want to answer Adolph's question. What makes them so special is this.
Wow.
But they don't spend any money. They don't spend any money. They get the money.
Is what makes them so special. You're right. They don't need to spend it. Look, I don't want to be too wonky about this, but I'd like to talk about this, the issue of these tax abatements. at some times, there are times when this makes sense. I no longer represent anybody who asked for tax abatement, so I can talk about something that happened years ago. I've never understood when a city does this analysis, do these tax abatements make sense? They go through an entire analysis of what's going to happen, how many jobs will it create, how much more income will it bring into the city, which is all a rational and reasonable way to look at this. What they never do, what befuddles me, is to say, look, we will give you the tax rebate if we can establish that you've met these economic guideposts. If you don't, you're going to have to pay the tax, or at least a portion of the tax. I've never understood why the city of Detroit doesn't do that. If you hit these economic milestones, you'll get the rebate. If you don't, you have to pay the tax.
Bill, we killed a whole neighborhood, Pole Town, because General Motors ran the okie doke on the city and says, you know what? We're going to build a tech town. We're going to bring all these companies in here and etc. Now, 40 years, 50 years later, you got one damn plant and you ran 3,000, 4,000 people out, churches, hospitals, whatever.
Yep.
Because General Motors said, we gonna blow you away. Yeah, they blew us away, all right. We gave them the brakes, and what did we get in return? One shift, two shifts of an automobile plant over there on the Hamtramck border is doing nothing for us.
Nancy.
I would just say that I've read the case to be made for these sorts of tax abatements. And it would be one thing if the Ilitches had a history of delivering on their promises. But this will now be the third, maybe the fourth major project. Let's see, it was Comerica Park, and then it was the Pizzarina, and now it's this thing with Stephen Ross. And they have shown, I mean, they've had 2 strikes now, that they do not deliver on their promises. They are Lucy pulling the football away from Charlie Brown when he goes to kick it. And I think by the third ask, if you aren't baking those things that Bill talked about into your agreements with them, then I think it's just fool me 3 times, I'm a moron. And I feel like that's exactly what's going to happen.
But my struggle with this, it's not just the Ilitches. I mean, there are all kinds of companies getting all kinds of tax abatements.
Yes. You're right.
There are times that it makes sense.
Yes.
But we ought to have metrics. We know it's not that complicated. We know how to do this.
Yeah.
Yeah. And again, I'll go back to what Allan said earlier. This is what makes them so special. Well, it's the stuff they carry around in their pocketbook.
Yeah.
They have the money, political contributions, all that stuff. That's what makes.
When are you going to tell people like Ilitches and them, okay, we'll give you some tax breaks, but you got to invest in our schools. You got to invest in some neighborhoods. That should be a whole list. There should be a whole list of things you need to invest in. And I had an issue with the Black Lives Matter demonstrations in Detroit, because I thought they needed a list of put these people on notice. Where's the grocery stores? Where's the retail? We spent a lot of money at these places. All we got from them was marching downtown, and they put Black Lives Matter in the middle of Woodward, and that was it. Listen, you got to hold their feet to the fire. Okay, you're going to get $800 million. What are you going to do with the neighborhoods? How are you going to contribute to the Detroit public schools? Listen, we got Detroit public schools that went from 200,000 kids not long ago to what, less than 30 or 40. It's unbelievable that we don't watch this city. On one hand, everything's great downtown.
And the reading.
On the other hand, the city is a wasteland in other places.
The reading levels, as Adolph knows, the reading levels in the Detroit schools is so abominable. It's horrible. It's disgraceful. We have a system that's basically, we have a high dropout rate. The reading levels are so subpar, and these guys are building and building and building. What are they? I never hear anything with the Ilitches, with the Gilberts, the massive building that's coming out of there, and I don't see anything happening with them in the schools. I mean, you're building housing. How is that not a component in a suburb? Schools are a component of housing. People decide oftentimes they're going to move to this neighborhood because it's a great school district. What's Detroit is just it's separate, and there's all these little separate fiefdoms, and there's no overall view, and you've got to blame, even though the mayor's office is not controlling the city, the school district, they should have some way of having input.
Listen, the mayor played a role in killing the school district. He was there when the state took it over. They had a surplus, and they sucked the money out. Everybody, contractors, had their hands out. Here you got schools they closed or they sold them to charter schools. You got empty buildings all over the place. You know what? It's ridiculous. On one hand, some things change. On the other hand, it's still screwed up. It's ridiculous that we're gonna give them $800 million, $800 million, so they can go and whatever they're going to do, because they're going to come back and ask for some more money. They keep coming, and we keep giving.
And it's interesting. I drove to the east side on St. Patty's Day, and you go through the east side and you're like, oh my God, this city there are so many parts of the city are so distressed. It's I mean, we see downtown is beautiful, and Midtown is great. But in some of the nice neighborhoods, Boston Edison, Sherwood Forest, Indian Village, but you go through parts of the east side and it is distressed, and the west side as well. Go down Grand River, all these places.
That's why when people say, "Oh, you want to give some money to these people? They got a welfare mentality." What the fuck does the Ilitches have? Or Tom Gores, you give him $40 million to build a facility, and he built a basketball court in Hines Park or somewhere. You know what? We just get screwed over, and that's because people don't vote. They continue to put the same people in there, and that city council got bought. They got bought. If you start looking at their finances, you'll see who gave what to what.
Good for Mary Sheffield. I can say that.
Oh, that was an easy one because they had the votes, Nancy.
Yeah, I know they did.
Ken Cockrell used to do that. You had the votes, so he voted the other way.
Right.
Make it seem like it's for the people. All of them in the bed together.
Yeah.
To your points, I'm surprised because this isn't the first time this came up. And it was HBO Real Sports who came to town and did the big expose of the Ilitches, and they built this, and it was supposed to be the district Detroit and the city within the city, but all they built were the parking lots where they collect the revenue from those.
Right.
And I was working at the time, and all the journalists in town took a look at that, and I thought that would be a real wake-up call and change the course, but it hasn't.
No.
But I mean,
in an airport on the east side that could do to that community what Midway undone to Chicago, but we sit here, let it rot away, kill the neighborhoods that was over there because of the runways. Look at the River Place district where we had all those bars and restaurants, and under Dennis Martin killed it because they were speculating where they were putting the casinos and stuff. And we let these folks get away with it, and they walk away with pockets full of money, and they leave decay and everything behind.
It's interesting, the warehouse district that you're talking about there, where they were going to put the casinos. I mean, you had the soup kitchen, you had the Rhinoceros, it took 10 years to build that up, and they destroyed that.
And then we still had to pay them, the city still had to pay these people. You know, I've been down here since the early '80s, and I've seen the transformation of downtown. But the neighborhoods are getting worse and worse and worse and worse. It's just ridiculous. And people are moving out of here. I'm talking about African Americans, and they're moved east. The second migration, as I called it, they moved to West Warren, they moved to East Point, St. Clair Shores,
Harper Woods
Township, Sterling Heights. That whole area over there, the demographics has changed.
Yeah. I live there. I live here. I'm with you.
There you go. Yep. Well, listen, before we go to our last segment, let's hear from our sponsor, Alan.
I'm Wayne County Treasurer Eric Sabri. There are payment plans available to help save your property. Visit our website at treasurer.waynecounty.com or email us at taxinfo@waynecounty.com for further information. We're here to help.
All right. That ad was the sorbet to cleanse your palate for our last segment, Alan.
Downtown Detroit, Robert Wells, Schmuck of the Week.
All right. Who's got a schmuck for me?
Yeah, no shortage.
I do.
Go ahead,
Mike Pence, Ron DeSantis, even though they coming to Donald Trump's defense, those assholes, somebody going to have to step up if they want to save the Republican Party and just go and kill Trump. But it doesn't seem like there's anybody out there. And so all of them schmucks for getting on TV and crying and saying that this is unfair, etc. So the Republican Party and those who want to be president.
There you go. Well, I think it's no coincidence that Adolph and Jim, you are juxtaposed up and down, because you are philological yin and yang to one another today. Okay, Nancy, who's your schmuck?
Okay, this is a late entry, but I am so amused by this, I have to share it. This is Representative Jeff Leake, Republican of Texas. He's a state representative, not a congressman. And the Texas House Committee on Judiciary and Civil Jurisprudence was meeting on Wednesday, and they were talking about some anti-transgender bill that they were considering. I'm just read here from the HuffPost. After a third grade teacher spoke out against the bill, Leach called on other constituents whose names had been registered to comment. Is there a Connie Lingus here? He asked.
Oh,
what about Anita Dickenme or Holden Middick? Now, I think that if you fall for the old fake name, fake name gambit, you are duty bound to at least chuckle sheepishly about it. But he didn't. He acted like your mom. He said, "I hope you all had your fun," and moved on. But I think
they should have that.
Holden, Anita Dickenme.
Yeah, they used to do that in The Simpsons, where they call to the bar.
They call Mo.
Yeah.
I know. I mean, we all did it. So, yeah. So
what a humorless man.
Here's to jack me off and all that.
Jack me off.
We had a religion teacher at Oak Park High. His name was Aaron Goff. Adolph, remember, and people used to call him, "Hey, Jack Goff." He didn't like it.
Bill, who's your schmuck?
There's a group, and for me, it's one of those subjects we didn't get to, but the gun violence in America continues to be out of control, and yet we completely failed to do anything about it. So my schmucks of the week, if you will, are every member of Congress who tell me that we cannot regulate guns.
Yeah.
It's the most ridiculous proposition I've ever heard of. I decided, just out of curiosity, morbid curiosity, to do legal research the other day to see if I could find anything from the founding fathers that said we put the Second Amendment into place so that we could allow people to be armed to overthrow this government. There's nothing. There is no argument, no rational argument for the notion that we can't regulate guns in this country. We have 1.2 guns for every man, woman, and child in this country. It's a ridiculous thing. There's no reason to allow weapons of war to be on our streets. We ought to regulate them. And the spineless son of a bitches that can't vote for gun control in Congress are my schmucks of a lifetime. Thank you.
I'll go with that.
Well, no wonder there were no. It's no surprise there were no weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. They were all over here.
Yeah.
So
I saw Lindsey Graham interviewed about that, and he's like, "Well, I don't know what else we can do, but I'm open." It's like there's plenty you can do. You need to start one by doing the most immediate thing, banning assault weapons. And people say, well, there's a bunch of them out there. You have to start somewhere to cut off the supply. It's flooded out there, and it's not all the time, but still the majority of these mass shootings are with assault weapons, and then the others are with 9mm. But
right.
I think they should tax ammo to the point where it's unaffordable by anybody except the Ilitches and Dan Gilbert. Jim.
Well, I like the fact that you guys are doing groups for schmucks, and I'm going to broaden that. I'm still going to try to hold middle ground here, but anybody who's going to use the times that we're in right now with all of this Trump stuff, and we could do another hour on school shootings, given what happened in Nashville this past week. And Bill and I were involved in some of the fallout from Oxford from last year, and some of the litigation that went on with that, and the 2 school board members who resigned in disgust over what happened up there. But I guess my schmucks are the ones who are going to contribute to more of the divide in this country. I'm not going to get into that whole we need a divorce in this country and all of that stupidity. But I'm just concerned more people are going to lose their minds with this Trump indictment. Don't you guys agree?
I think it's a strong possibility, but I don't think it justifies ignoring his responsibility to follow the law.
I'm not saying. I'm just concerned that here we go again. First it was Trump as the candidate. Then we went through COVID. Yeah. Now in January 6th when he lost, and it's just how many more issues are going to just cause people in this country to lose their minds and go crazy.
But you know what they always say, America loves a circus, and he is a circus. He's a constant circus there that America loves. And we're going to watch TV. We're going to watch the arraignment.
He's a ringmaster.
It's an air show. It's not just a 3-ring circus on the ground. It's an air show. It's Las Vegas. It's Broadway. It's Hollywood. They're all playing into this. And
it's showtime.
I know I've said this before, but I'm a little frustrated. We give too much credit to Trump. Okay. Trump's not the problem. He's the manifestation of a problem.
True.
And in my opinion, it goes back to that great Pogo cartoon strip. We have met the enemy, and he is us.
Right.
There you go.
And we have got to stop giving life to Trump. We've got to marginalize his true believers. We've got, political correctness should be in vogue. Being woke should not be an insult.
I read a great metaphor for this. He said, he is the whistle on the screaming tea kettle. Take the whistle off the tea kettle, it's still boiling. And but he's their spokesman. So
or switch to coffee. Allan.
My schmuck of the week. Well, one of them is Lindsey Graham for begging for money for Trump for his defense fund, which is just insane. And my other one is Lauren Boebert during a hearing where they had local people from the DC consul. She's grilling one of the council members saying, "Didn't you want to decriminalize urinating in public?" And he's like, "No." And he goes, "No, it's still a criminal act in DC." And she goes, "But didn't you want to do it?" And he goes, "No." He goes, "I voted to keep it criminal. And so she just went on, and she was just such an idiot. And
we're going to start calling her Golden Shower Lauren. So
yeah, if you hear, the DC Council did have some reforms, some criminal reforms and stuff like that, and people are like, oh my God, they want to downgrade the penalty for like carjacking. Well, they were just trying to put some uniformity to the laws. They were taking it from 40 years to 30 years. Nobody's getting 40 years anyways. They were just trying to put some uniformity, and they make them sound like they're a bunch of communists. And oh my God, you're trying to decriminalize urination in public. How dare you?
Wait till you get older and you're incontinent on that. Okay. Well, my schmuck of the week is not really political. It's the as yet unnamed security guard at the Dodger Stadium. Yesterday, Ricardo Juarez makes his way onto the field, which of course is not allowed, and then is smack in center field facing the bleachers to propose marriage on bended knee to his fiancée Ramona Saavedra. And out of nowhere, the security guard comes in and NFL tackles him. Two other security guards show up, and it appears that they handcuff him. Of course, not to be outgunned on this, no pun intended, the Dodger PA system starts playing Rough Riders Anthem by the late DMX. But wow, talk about being a buzzkill. Dodger security detail, you're my schmucks of the week.
Is there any chance that the girlfriend put the security guard up to that?
No, she said yes.
Oh, okay. She did.
She said yes. So at least it has.
You said tackle that guy before he asked me the question.
and I'm pretty sure that they're not having the wedding at Dodger Stadium. Well, anyways, thank you again for a wonderful discussion on this week, the week that was. Thank you, Bill Seikaly. Thank you, Jim Kiertzner. Thank you, Adolph Mongo. Thank you, Nancy Derringer. Thank you, Allan Lengel. With the last word.
Drive home safely.
Take care, everybody, and have a great week.